So we are in the last phylum, which is Chordata, which is going to include all of these organisms or any other organism that we haven't covered, which is basically fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. So we're going to focus on the first two for this unit. So if you are a chordate, you have four things that make you a chordate, okay? Postanal tail. What else?
Something with an N.
Notochord. And then a dorsal hollow nerve cord, as you said. And then one more thing.
The slits.
Good job. Pharyngeal slits. Okay? You just have to know the facts. So if you have a notochord, what did you think of when you saw that word, notochord? What did you think of?
Like a vocal cord.
You thought vocal cord?
What is it called? Backstring?
Backstring or backbone. It's kind of like the first stage before that. So it's not a backbone, because not all chordates have backbones, but it is like a backbone because it's a rod that is made up of cartilage, and it's existent in every chordate during the embryonic stages of development. So if you look at a fish and you look at a bird and a reptile and a human, you see that all of them have the notochord during the first stages of development. That will develop for us into what?
Spinal cord?
Backbone. So spinal cord is different, and we're going to talk about that next. But a notochord, which is that rod that's flexible, that exists in all chordates in some, so put in some, it develops into a backbone. Oh, I put in some. It just says it backwards. So the next is dorsal hollow nerve cord. And basically, the word says it all. It's a tract full of nerves. So it makes up basically your central nervous system. And that's what's going to develop into your spinal cord. So think about it. You've got your backbone that has all the nerves surrounding it. So your backbone was the notochord developed into the backbone. And the dorsal hollow nerve cord that surrounds the notochord develops into your nervous system, which is full of nerves. Last two facts of chordates are pharyngeal slits and postanal tail. Pharyngeal slits basically are openings that are in the pharynx, and they can develop into gills in some chordates. Obviously, we don't have gills, but some chordates, their pharyngeal slits will develop into gills. And then the postanal tail is exactly what it sounds like. It's an extension of the posterior end or the back end. We call it posterior because it just depends on how you're looking at the organism. And it's present in all chordates, just like every other thing during embryonic development. Not all chordates will be born with the tail. It just gets absorbed by the body. Yes. So what do all chordates have? Say it. What do all chordates have? No backbone. Notochord. Postanal tail. Pharyngeal slits. The notochord. Notochord, dorsal hollow nerve cord, those are different. You got a nerve cord, notochord, pharyngeal slits, and postanal tail. Not all chordates have a backbone, okay? So some do not. So there are chordates that lack a backbone, and the only two chordates that do not have a backbone are called lancelets and tunicates. We will focus the rest of this unit on vertebrate chordates, so chordates that have a backbone. They have the four major things during their embryonic development, but their notochord will develop into a backbone, and they also will have a skull. So the first three classes are fish. The first class is miccine, second class is chondrichthyes, and the third class is osteichthyes. So miccine is the class name. The AKA, or really what we know them as, okay. So we call them jawless fish, okay? And if you notice, there's no jaws here. They are, an example would be a lamprey. They have partial skull, and their skeleton is made up of cartilage. But the good news is, what kingdom are we in? What kingdom are we in? Animalia. What phylum? Chordata. And the class is miccine. Okay? The next class, kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Chondrichthyes. Think of C for Chondrichthyes, C for cartilaginous fish. So fish that are made out of cartilage, which means they're lacking bones, okay? Like your nose and your ears. Examples of cartilaginous fish are what? Sharks and rays. Good. They lack true bones and they have movable cartilage. So my last class, Kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Osteichthyes, is basically the rest of all fish in the sea, which are bony fish. So almost every fish that you know of, other than sharks, rays, lampreys and hagfish, and tunicates and lanceolets are called bony fish or Osteichthyes, okay? So if I ask you, what is a goldfish? What are you going to say? Osteichthyes or bony fish, right? What is a salmon? Okay, good. If I say what's a shark? Chondrichthyes. If I say what's a lamprey? Miccine. Good. So fish breathe, even though they're underwater, right? They have to breathe, so they have a respiratory system. And the major organs of the respiratory system for a fish?
Gills.
Good. What else? Anybody know? Look at what's happening in this diagram. So what's the mouth? Good. The mouth. And then there's one thing that I want you to know because we're going to lab, but you could scratch it out for the test. It's called the operculum. And I'll show you a video of how that works right now. So I'll go back, by the way, and I'll label those parts. So this is how a fish works. This whole page, you don't have to know on the test. But there's no way I wasn't going to tell you, okay? So the operculum is this flap that the fish has. So every time you see a fish going like this, the operculum is a flap that's made out of bone that covers their gills to help them from choking. So when the operculum closes, the mouth opens. You see it happening right here. And then water gets sucked in. And then the gills exchange all the gases. And then to let the gases out, the operculum opens. The mouth closes. So it goes like this. And the gases go out through the gills. Okay? So, and I have a video and I'll show it to you. So fish feed, but just kind of like they breathe, they actually suck in their prey through their mouth and they take it straight down with water and they do not digest any food until it gets to the stomach. So what does that mean for you when you dissect a fish?
You could see stuff.
You could have a full thing in the stomach. Maybe we'll get that lucky. So digestion, we're keeping it simple. We're only naming the major organs. So this should be easy for you. Where does digestion start?
The mouth.
Or not digestive, the system starts. Because digestion is a word, system is another. So fish have a digestive system. It requires several parts to function. It starts with the mouth. And then teeth also play a role, okay? Because it might be like to help break down, but no nutrient absorption or anything takes place. And then it travels through, good job, and enters the stomach, start of digestion, okay? And then it goes to the intestine, and a nice word there for you've never heard, cloaca and anus. And I'm just going to just scratch out this word too, because we're going to talk about that with amphibians. Let's leave this one out. Okay? Say that. So how does it come out? Or how does it process things you don't need? So the digestive system, you think of it as your digestion, which is nutrients you need. Excretory system gets rid of things you don't need, okay? Because there's things you don't need. So it's usually, we call the excretory system, anybody know the major organ?
The what?
The major organ of the excretory system. What organs filter for you? Good. Kidneys. There are filters. And for fish, gills do that too. So does an organ called the swim bladder. I'm going to move this up so it comes out in the video. I'll move this up too. So the gills excrete salts. because there's salt water. Even if it's fresh water, water has some level of salt, whether it's fresh or salt. Obviously, salt water has a lot of salt. Fresh water only has a little. So they have to excrete the salts because they breathe using water, and they don't want to take in that salt. Kidneys filter out your waste from your blood, more salts, and also ammonia. And you want to know that's a nitrogen compound. You see the nitrogen here? N equals nitrogen. So ammonia is a nitrogen compound. You want to know, I don't see anybody writing, I hope you remember that, N equals nitrogen. And then the swim bladder helps with excretory system, but I also want you to know that it helps with buoyancy, which is their ability to what? Float. Good job. You guys are so smart. Period C Bio 2018, so smart.